We are so excited to be a part of the African American Network, y'all. And again, they have a local feel with a global reach. So make sure you check us out. And again, as we always say, stay creative. Now let's check out the next episode. So you guys know that I love a good book. So I have curated my own book collection by Jamir Smith on Amazon. So make sure you check it out at www.amazon.com/Jamir_Smith. And check out some of these amazing books that I chose. Happy reading. Hello, everyone, and welcome back to the Jamir Smith Show podcast. I'm so excited, and we're honored to have an amazing, creative entrepreneur, influencer, nomad, fashion icon, black girl magic, Jessica Nabongo in the building. We're so excited.
Yes. Thank you for having me.
Absolutely. Listen, my girl is under the weather, and she still pushed through.
Yes.
She said, let me tell y'all something. Jamir, we gonna make this thing happen regardless. And y'all already know, this woman has done so much. She's a global citizen, storyteller, travel expert. And to be clear, I want to make this known.
Oh, yes. Clear your voice. Yes. Clear it.
The first Black woman to have traveled to every country in the world. She's named one of the 50 most notable people in travel by Travel Leisure. And let me tell you something. The first time I saw this woman was on an article on CNN. Everybody, Jessica in the building, y'all. So listen, we want to get started, but I really want to not take up too much of your time because I know, listen, she got to rest that throat because she has some more countries to travel and more people to talk to. First and foremost, we're in July. It feels like we're already in December. The year is already gone. How has this year been for you so far?
That's such a good question. For me, honestly, it's been amazing. For so many different reasons. I started the year pretty slow. And then I spent my time between LA and Detroit, and the weather in LA was pretty bad. So I bought a ticket to Ghana and left the same day. And that just kicked off an amazing year.
I can't. I cannot.
Then in March, I was invited by the Vice President, Kamala Harris, to Ghana. So I went back to Ghana for her first visit to the African continent, and she had a state dinner and Accra, and I was gladly her guest with the president of Ghana, which was amazing. And then just a few days later, for the first time ever, my art was showing in a museum, and it showed at Christie's in London, which was an amazing opening to be at. So I had a strong start to the year, and outside of that, and then I interviewed Madam Vice President.
I was gonna say, don't miss that, because listen, this woman interviewed Vice President Kamala Harris, who we just talked about and saw at Essence Festival. But go ahead, keep going.
Yeah, so I got to interview her at the African American Museum in D.C., and it was phenomenal because it was basically a recap of her visit to the African continent. She visited Ghana, Tanzania, and Zambia, and so it was great to just sit down with her and talk about the administration's goals for their relationship with Africa, but also personally as a Black woman to just hear from her about what that trip meant to her. So It was a really incredible experience. And outside of that, honestly, I've been taking it slow. I had a month of travel for work in May, which took me to Miami, London, Botswana, South Africa, Mozambique, the Maldives. So that was a whirlwind, but it was nice to be back on the road. I hadn't traveled like that since 2019, so it was really nice to be back out there. But now I'm just taking it easy, enjoying the summer.
Well, and I think the beauty about you is that everyone knows you from travel. But I think what we love about you is how much of a fashion icon you are. I mean, this is one of the things that she doesn't talk a lot about, but I'm going to. This beauty is a fashion. Before you even see her open this beautiful mouth with all these gorgeous teeth, you see this woman in all of these amazing colors, these beautiful outfits, and then you hear her speaking. You're like, who is this icon? Who is this woman? What is happening here? I want to start with a quote. Life is the consequence of the decisions we make. Choose wisely. This is a quote that you actually made. First generation American, born and raised in Detroit by Ugandan parents. And bonjour, mademoiselle, comment ça va? She speaks French and English, let's be clear.
Ça va bien.
So I want to go back really quickly because before we get to see all of the amazing things that you have done in your life current day, let's go back. How would you describe yourself as a child?
The same as I am now. I think,
I love people when they say that.
I have a lot of friends who I've been friends with for like 20 plus years. And it's so funny because they're always like, this has always been Jessica. Even as a child, I was marching to the beat of my own drum. My mother one day sent a picture to me, and it was of me in kindergarten, and I was on this little bicycle trip, and I was leading the class on this bicycle trip in the neighborhood where our school is. And I went to a predominantly white school from preschool to sixth grade. But even then, I was like a leader, and this is kindergarten, so what, 5 years old? So I've always been outspoken. I've always kind of done my thing. I'm the baby in the family, so I feel like I had a lot of leeway. And I was always like, I can do whatever I want to do. Like, I have all of these safety nets in my older sisters. And so, and I would say I always, like, now being older and talking to people about their stories and their childhood, I'm so grateful for, like, the life that my parents created for me because, from a young age, we traveled internationally. We went to Uganda, to London, to the Caribbean, Mexico.
Yeah.
And, the best thing that I think my parents did for me is because I was involved in so many activities. I started playing the piano when I was 3. I did ballet, tap, clarinet, played basketball, softball, tennis, all of these different things. And the thing that my parents did for me that I think still stands strong in my life now is that they always let me quit. I would sign up for a ton of things, and if I just didn't feel like doing it,
she said, "This ain't for me."
Like it.
Right?
Yeah, they would let me quit, and I think it's really important because you hear like parents be like, "No, we paid our good money for it. You have to do it," and then kids end up doing stuff that they hate because like their parents are like, "Well, you got to commit because we paid for it and we paid for the lessons." My parents were never like that, so it was always, I always was able to quit things, and I think the beautiful thing about that is how it shows up in my life as an adult is I quit things. And when I've done something and I'm like, okay, I did it. It was great. I want to move on. It's okay. Like I had an amazing corporate job straight out of undergrad working for a pharmaceutical company. When I didn't feel like doing it anymore, I quit. I taught English in Japan. They wanted me to extend my contract. I didn't want to. I quit. I worked for the UN. I quit like 3 times because I kept going back when I ran out of money. And, but the other thing is like excellence, right? Like my parents taught me to be excellent. So even though I would quit things, I was always excellent before I quit. So people would always happily take me back because they're like, we know Jessica is a hard worker. She's committed to excellence in a way very few people are. So they would always take me back. But that's probably the best thing my parents ever did for me.
It was interesting. I wanted to go over more of your childhood, but there was a quote that you said that really, a lot of our people on our team were like, oh my God, she was very open and vulnerable. And it's interesting. At the end of our show, we call it a therapy session. But you know what? I'm going to get right into it. This is something new. I overshot my birthday by 5 months, but I ended up finishing on my father's birthday. He passed away just 2 days after my 19th birthday. So it was nice to be able to bring him into the fold in that way. During your father's passing, what advice do you think that he would tell you where you are right now? What advice would he give you?
God. What advice would my dad give me? I don't know that there would be advice to give. I I think he would just be proud. I think he would just say, congratulations, and keep doing what you feel good doing. You know what I mean? I think it would be more like that. And it's funny because, I was so young when he died, and it was violent, and sudden. And I, sometimes I'm like, what would it be like to have a relationship with him as an adult? But yeah, I don't think it would be advice. I think he would just be proud and just like in awe. And I think, maybe we would travel together more, because the last thing we did, we traveled, just he and I, we traveled to London in January of the year he died. He died in May. And me and him went on our little, just a me and him trip to London. And that was the last big thing we did. And it was great. And I'm just like, damn, there could have been so much more of that. Mm-hmm. But yeah, I mean, it's funny because one thing he said, and I take it to mean something else, but one thing he said when we were younger, because we used to travel, and my mom is an overpacker. I am an overpacker. Because my mom, she's fly and she wants to have options. And he would always look at us and be like, don't pack more than you can carry, because he would be carrying all my mom's stuff.
Oh my God.
And, I took that what he actually meant. So when I travel now, I will always travel in a way that I can move everything by myself. Like if nobody wants to help me, cool. Like I got it. Even if I have 2 check bags, a carry-on, a roller bag, I'm like, I got it.
I got this. Yeah.
Because of how my dad said that. But also, don't pack more than you can carry. I think it also can mean don't carry burdens that you don't need to carry in this life. Things happen. But we have to realize that we have to move forward. Life is very short, and so we can't hold on to a bunch of things that'll just keep us being stagnant or keep us in a negative feedback loop. Things happen. We have to be able to just move forward and let those things be in the past. So I also took it to mean that.
I love it. Listen, we want to get right into these travel questions. When people heard that you were going to be on the show, it immediately kind of blew up. Our email, oh my God, it was crazy. So let's get right into it, and then we're going to talk about something super special. So I know we don't have you long. First question is, and you can give a quick or short answer, totally up to you. First question is, what can't you travel without?
Oh, I mean, besides the obvious of my phone, well, I can't travel without headphones. I need my headphones when I'm on a plane. I just, I love flying because I feel like it's the one time that I can disconnect. I mean, granted, now we have Wi-Fi in the air, which I think is the worst thing we ever could have done.
Same.
But, a lot of times I don't connect because it's a time when I get to watch movies and I get to just listen to music and I get to just go away. So I would say headphones.
What has been the most interesting item of food that you have tasted?
The most interesting item of food I've tasted. I don't know. I'm not a bug eater or anything. I did actually, when I was in Mexico filming a pilot, they got me to eat, I don't even remember what, crickets and all types of nonsense. And I was just not into it. Because in Mexico, they eat a lot of bugs, which are great for protein. And even in Uganda, they eat what we call incenine, which is grasshoppers. And I actually tasted that for the first time in November, filming as well. It's when you're filming, people can get you to do a whole bunch of stuff
right,
you normally
right.
do.
So true.
So yeah, I would say bugs. Did not enjoy, but that's just because my brain wouldn't let me enjoy it. Because
you were it's a bug. I can't. Right?
Yeah.
I
also can't.
Right. What's the best piece of travel advice and the worst piece of travel advice you've received?
People don't give me travel advice. I don't know who would give me travel advice. R.I.P. Anthony Bourdain. Could have asked him a few things. But if I can flip that, I can tell you what I would recommend.
There you go.
Piece of travel advice.
There you go.
I would say just go. I think a lot of people get so stuck in the planning phase And a lot of people get stuck sort of letting fear take over, like, oh, you know, because I think what happens a lot of time when people want to travel, like their family will be like, that's scary, and why are you going, and da-da-da-da-da.
Yeah.
And I'm like, now, why are you letting people, because I remember this girl told me, I really want to go to Colombia, but my family is afraid. I said, oh, have they been? She said,
right.
no. So why are you listening to people who've never done the thing that you want to do?
Come on, a word?
Do what it is that you want to do. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So yeah, I would say just go. Like, close out the noise and just go. Because if I listen to everybody who's like, oh my God, that's so scary, that's so dangerous, I would have never done, not just would I have never visited every country in the world, I would have never done half of the things that I've done in my life. So yeah, just go. Just do it.
It's interesting because so many people, they try and slide in my DMs or text me or friends and family. Oh, my God, you're traveling alone and make sure you did it. And I'm just like, listen, calm down. It's okay.
But also, you've never done it.
And
so,
you've
like,
never done it.
Business.
Right. I'm like, you've never done it. So it's okay. And like, I move in a way that everything is organized. And even if it's not organized, I figure it out. Like, come on, y'all. So watch how I align this next question. When you, Jessica, when you win the lottery, where are you traveling to? Where are you traveling to first?
Oh.
Listen, we do the thing here on this show.
When I win the lottery, where am I traveling to first? You know what? I think what I would do is I would rent a massive yacht and I would go to the Caribbean with like a bunch of my friends. And then I would do like a family week. But yeah, I think I would just love to just rent a massive yacht and just like chill out for like 2 weeks and just go to like my favorite places in the Caribbean.
This is a first for us because this is a question we typically have never asked anybody. But if you could choose one famous person or celebrity to travel with, who would that be?
Oh, that's interesting. Okay, if we're doing dead or alive, the first one I would say is Anthony Bourdain. Just because, you know, I don't respect, if I'm being honest, I don't respect a lot of people in the travel space. I still think like there's a lot of patronizing behavior that happens. But I love the way he did it in a way he decentered himself. And of course, he wasn't without flaws, but he is one person that I really, truly, you know, respected in this travel space. So Anthony Bourdain. And I think, you know what? Barack Obama, because, you know, you see him doing a lot of travel. Like he did Anthony Bourdain's show once, and you just see him out and about. And I think it would just be really interesting to travel with him because I would kind of be his guy because he's been to so many places in an official capacity. And so I would just love to travel to some of the places he enjoyed in an official capacity, but actually go with him as a tourist. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So I think that would be super interesting.
Well, and both of you love history anyway. Like, I mean, that's...
Exactly.
Yeah, that's your jam. Where is...
I'm like, maybe I can pitch this show to Higher Ground. I just thought about that. Like, let's go to his favorite countries, but he gets to be a tourist.
Just saying. Come on. Breaking news. Here we go.
Right?
Where's the weirdest place that you've slept during your travels?
So, when I was in Kyrgyzstan, I slept in a yurt. So a yurt is like, it's a round structure. You see them in Central Asia. And so we went, that was like my goal. I was like, when I go to Central Asia, I want to sleep in a yurt. And so we went to this yurt camp and we helped them build the yurt. And we slept on top of this mountain. There was no electricity, no running water, no toilet. And it was amazing. Like, it was amazing. And the air was so fresh. It was so beautiful. And we walked on long walks and we went on a horse ride, which ended up being really, really crazy. I wrote about it in my book. But yeah, that was probably one of the most interesting. And then I ended up sleeping in a yurt in Mongolia. Same thing. No running water, no electricity. No bathroom.
You know, it's like it's so interesting. It's insane to hear you talk about this. And I know so many people are like listening right now. Wait, what? Are you serious? And I think being in that space, you really do get in tune with who you are as a woman, as a person, and you really figure it out. And I think the beauty about you is that you have curated like this space for people to look up and say, wow, this black girl from Detroit with parents that have never traveled the world and she just taught herself. If she can do it,
wait,
I can do it.
My parents travel though.
Listen, but no, you've curated like your own space. Like they're looking at you like, girl, what? But you have
for sure.
you have a beauty, and it's really Catch Me If You Can, your new book. I want to get into it, ask you a couple of questions. It took more than 450 flights across more than 1 million air miles, but you made it to 195 countries in the world. And that was in 2022 when she did her CNN.
No, 2019.
2019. I was reading your 2022 CNN article. When I tell you this woman has done so much, you wrote this beautiful book, Catch Me If You Can. It's beautifully illustrated with many of your own photographies, and you really just documented your remarkable experiences in each country. The first question is, what inspired you to start writing?
Oh, that's really interesting. So I actually have been writing since I was really, really young. My mom, one of her best friends was an English professor, I think, or teacher. And my mom always tells me how at the age of 3, she was so impressed by me. Like, just the way I spoke, I guess, as a 3-year-old, I don't know what I was saying. But as long as I can remember, I've been a writer. I find things that I've written like in 5th grade, 6th grade, like a ton from middle school, high school. I ended up being an English literature major in undergrad. And so I've always been a writer. I've always, wanted to tell stories, wanted to make up stories. It's just always been a part of who I am. And to that end, I also am an avid reader. I'm still an avid reader. I'm on like my 22nd book this year. So I've always just wanted to make up stories.
I want to get into a question from Trey from Brooklyn. He read your book and said that he was inspired to continue to travel to some of the most weirdest places in the world that he never, ever, ever thought about. He had a really random question. Do you prefer a window seat or an aisle seat on the plane?
Window. Always. I love looking out of the window. Like, it's so funny because I think sometimes when people see me on planes, they're probably like, oh my God, this girl ain't never been on a plane. Meanwhile, you know what I mean? But I love looking out of planes. I love it. I love looking at the landscape. I love looking at clouds. I just really love being on a plane. Hate airports, but love being on a plane.
Tia from North Carolina asks, where would you most like to live in the world?
Well, so I'll never live in just one place. That I know about myself. Like, even now I live between Detroit and LA. I have an apartment that's being built in Dakar and Senegal. I would love to get a place in Cartagena. I'd love to build a family compound in Uganda. I wouldn't be mad at a home in Tuscany, a little flat in London, a little brownstone in New York. Like, I'm definitely someone who always needs a change of scenery. And there's just so many places I love for so many reasons that I don't feel like I have to just pick one.
Our last question on our Q&A is from Chris, and Chris is actually out of Inglewood. He says, what food from your home country do you miss the most?
Oh, that's a good question. Roasted pork. Oh, my God. Like, there's these places that you could go. My favorite is on Entebbe Road. But it's like, it's just a little pork joint. And so you go in and you pick your pieces. They're obviously super fresh. And it takes forever. It takes like an hour. And then you get this super fresh roasted pork. And they serve it with like some chopped up tomatoes and onions and avocado and like little salt and pepper. and it's delicious. And you drink that with an ice cold beer. I love Tusker Malt. It's a Kenyan beer. And that is like, I'm like mouth watering right now.
She said, "Listen, let me get some." As we get ready
Yeah.
to wrap our show, we curated this last piece called the therapy session, and it really does just kind of make you think about where you are in this place in your life, where you could be, where you were, whatever. And it's really the first thing that comes to your mind. What is your proudest accomplishment?
Oh, that's a really good question. I think that my proudest accomplishment is being alive.
Okay.
And surviving and being happy. Like, I dealt with a lot of mental health issues in my teens and my early 20s, and I was not really super interested in living. And I'm just proud of myself now that I'm like thriving and I'm happy, because I never could see this, like I was in such a dark place that I couldn't see this. I couldn't see me wanting to live and like being excited about things. Like I just couldn't see it for a really long time. So my greatest accomplishment for me, like what I'm proudest of, is like being alive and being happy.
And we're happy that you're here telling your story. Jessica, what is your biggest fear?
Oh my God, the death of loved ones. Like, I think recently I've been like, fuck, my mom is gonna, sorry.
No, you're fine.
My mom is gonna die, like that's something that I recently have been thinking about a lot. Like, there is gonna be a time where like my mom is dead. And so, I think because I lost my dad at a young age and it was, so tragic, I'm always afraid of like that, because I lost a really close friend last year and it was really tough. My friend AJ Crimson. Mm-hmm. And I've not lost many people that I'm close to.
Same. Same here.
And so like just losing loved ones is like the worst thing. That's my biggest fear, because, for me, more than anything, like more than the accolades, more than everything y'all see and that people praise me for, I really am like very into my friends and family. And like people will tell you that like I am such a lover of my friends and family. And so the idea of losing them is what I fear the most.
I thought about that the other day. My parents are still married, and as my mom and dad, they're getting older, I'm like, oh my God, can you guys just stay where you are? And I'm just like, no, right? And I mean, for me, I'm only child, so I really am looking at them as they're getting older like, ugh, really? Is this what we're doing? So anyway, we're not going to do that today. You may have just answered this, but who is your hero?
Oh, who is my hero? Probably my mom. I think, I look at my mom and like what she's been through. Like, my mom grew up in a village in Uganda, and granted, like her parents were pretty well to do, relatively speaking, in like rural Uganda in the 1960s. But, she moved to the U.S. with my dad when she was 16, and she did well. She raised 3 amazing daughters. She became a nurse. She graduated, but she she kept the home so well. And like, even now I always say like my mommy is like your mom's favorite mom. Like she's such a mom, and she'll like pack me food still. I'm talking about still. She'll like, if I'm going to the airport, she'll send me with food and she'll like give me money. Like, here's some money for food. I'm like, okay, girl. I'm like, I bought her a car, but she still gives me money.
She's like, nope,
nope. I love it. But and then dealing with, like, when my dad died, my mom was actually in Uganda because her mom had a stroke. And I called her and I told her what happened. And she came immediately back. And then when we were sorting out everything, because we couldn't take the body back immediately because of, like, the investigation, her mom died. But now she was in Detroit and her mom was in Uganda. And it was such a horrible, horrible time. But for her to have gotten through that and like continued on with her life, and you know, like it's been hard for sure, but she's still out here living, you know, she still travels. She's in like a book club with her friend.
Looking fabulous. Looking amazing.
Yeah, and she's looking fabulous. And she's, you know, she gets to hang out with her friends, and she's retired, and she loves her grandkids. And, you know, so I would say probably my mom, because she's been through it, but she still manages to like live a beautiful life.
Our last two questions are going to be interesting because this first question is something that you don't talk a lot about, and I would love to know your answer.
Oh.
What is a relationship deal breaker for you?
Oh, a relationship deal breaker for me is like any sort of hatred towards a group of people. You know what I mean? So, like, I remember, or like just a lack of respect towards people who aren't like you. So I remember this one ex of mine. Oh my God. The way he like disrespected my culture, like I couldn't deal. You know what I mean? It's like he just, you know, he didn't have an interest in learning much about my culture. And I was like, oh, you gotta go. But then, like, I also can't deal with, like, homophobia. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. So if a guy shows any sort of homophobia, I'm like, you gotta go. Because I'm someone who has, like, a diverse group of friends, but also cultural respect is so important to me. And so if you just don't see it for people that aren't like you or people who live differently than you, like, you gotta go. Because for me, it's like my friends are so important to me. I'm not one of those people who are like, my man, I don't care, like it's all about my man. I'm like, no, my man has to integrate. He has to integrate into my life with my friends. Because I'm not the girl who like gets in a relationship and suddenly disappears. Right. Like, I'm not that girl.
Yeah.
It's like I'm going to integrate him into my life. So, if he's, you know, on any BS, I'm like, oh, you got to go.
Yeah.
I would say that's the thing. Like, I want to date and be with someone who's just kind. Like, that is so important. Like, just being a kind person.
Our last question. As you continue to travel many, many more countries, and you begin to build these homes and probably foundations for young women and young men to be able to say, I can do what she does. And you speak at all of these conferences and places and write even more books and just create even more memories. You sit back and you remember the words that your father told you when you were young. And as your mother begins to get older, she begins to provide you with even more wisdom, more words for you to just live the rest of your life. And you apply them to just as you move through this world. And you touch so many more people just by speaking on social media, and you build that platform bigger than what it even is. Mm-hmm. What do you want your legacy to be?
Oof. I want my legacy to be, I want people, when people think about me, I want them to think, she lived, but also she helped other people to live. And I think so much of, like, you know, I'm so grateful, like, and I recognize that I grew up in a position of privilege, and it is my privilege that has allowed me to be where I am today and in the spaces that I moved through. And it's allowed me to have these existential thoughts and opinions because I'm not living from a place of just surviving, right? I'm living from a place of living and thriving. So I really hope that what people get from everything I do, whether it's listening to me on a podcast or reading a book or seeing me talk or seeing interviews, like I lived, you know, I never believed in a box. Like, I never believed that I had to pick one thing to do. I never was like, okay, I can be a lawyer. That's all I can be. I'm like, no, I can do anything. This year I saw myself being an artist. Last year I saw myself publishing a book. This year I started moderating conversations, which was new. The vice president was the second person that I ever interviewed. You know what I mean? And like,
yeah.
That for me is just like, I can do anything. It's not that I have to be afraid because I've never done it. It's like, I can do anything I feel like doing. And I really created a life that I want to live. So I hope that my legacy is that other people find their freedom and their freedom to live out loud, to live fully as themselves, despite what society tries to convince them or tell them. And really just live. I think we are under so many shackles, and capitalism is really starting to get to me. And climate change, like we take for granted. Everybody's like, oh my God, it's so hot. It's so hot. It's so hot. It's like, yeah, because this is about to be the coldest year going forward. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And
yeah.
I think about a lot of those things. But we're living. So many people are living on autopilot. And I chose to turn autopilot off and make very conscious decisions and be very hyper aware of every single thing that I'm doing every day. And so I hope that my legacy convinces people to interrogate everything they're doing in their life, interrogate every single thing they do every single day. Like, are you happy? And really think about, what is the meaning of life for you? And figure out ways to fulfill that meaning. And really live your life. Like, that's what I hope my legacy is. And really beyond that, I hope that people learn more about the world. People learn more about all of the countries in the world and the different cultures. And to that end, that we have more tolerance, Like, I'm someone who, loves everybody. I don't give a shit. Your religion, your gender identity, your sexuality, who cares? Honestly, I literally do not care. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's not even like I'm here for rallying for everyone. I'm just like, I don't care.
I don't care.
Like, you're a person.
Yeah.
And that's all that matters. Like, you are a human. I'm a human. We all want to, and we all deserve to live well. So, I literally don't care about any of these isms. You know what I mean?
Exactly.
I just want people to live and live free. And so for me, I try to create space and safe spaces that allow people to be their full selves. Because, look, growing up dark-skinned in America was hard AF. And I got to a place where I could accept myself, right? And, obviously, I have a shaved head and I wear bright colors. So I'm always going to stand out. And, you know what I mean? And, I'm living in a society that is continuously trying to convince me that I'm ugly and, I'm the lowest on the totem pole. And I'm like, okay, cool. But this is what I got, so I'm going to go with what I got. And, I hope that a lot of people just seeing my story find just their freedom to be who they are. And, I don't know. I feel like I'm rambling.
No, listen, and I think the beauty about who you are as a woman is that you have really made a footprint for so many other young women, young men, everyone to be able to just follow. I want to thank you for your time. I want to thank you for your story. And I really want to thank you for the future. I want to look at the lens and really just see how many beautiful things that you will be able to continue to accomplish. I mean, you just were signing copies in Rockefeller Center right under Michelle Obama's book, y'all. Make sure you get a signed copy there. But we really do want to thank you. Any last words you want to leave any of your listeners, any of your new listeners, your fans, any last words?
I think what I would say is that we all have to remember this life is ours. You alone. This is your life. So it's not your parents' life. It's not your siblings' lives. It's not your bosses. It's not your partners. It is your life. And so whatever you need to do to live a life for you, you have to do that. You are the only person that can set yourself free. And you are the only person that's in control of your life and your happiness. And so I implore people to do the things that they need to do to set themselves free. And it's not always easy. It's not always easy to go against your parents and against your community. But just just do it, because when I tell you what's on the other side,
let them know.
Is pure bliss. Pure bliss.
I love it. Everyone, make sure you please go and purchase this amazing, beautiful new book, Catch Me If You Can. And that is, of course, on her website, thecatchmeifyoucan.com. But also, you guys already follow her, but you know, Jessica Nabongo on Instagram, and that is JessicANabongo. And again, first Black woman to travel to every country. We thank you for your time. We thank you for your service. We thank you for your love and your passion.
Thank you so much for having me.
Absolutely. And guys, as we say at the end of the show, stay positive, but stay creative. Until next time, thank you for tuning in.